back to the Zoom room. Lynn and Bakung, nice to see you both for another live session as part of the Art of Letting Go course. So yeah, let's dive straight into today's teaching. Some daily quote, some related teachings, then that'll lead us nicely into our lesson, and we should have some time to do the text. Okay, so
Sorry, I've just got to disappear for 10 minutes, but I will be back. My sister's messaging me and asking me to call her, so
okay,
normally I won't
fine.
be long.
Yeah, no problem. Don't do that. All right, so Kang, if you can read The Wailing of Broken Hearts from Rumi. That's a famous Persian poet. And read that quote.
The wailing of broken hearts is the doorway to God.
Yeah, so this was a part of a poem by the 13th century Persian poet. He was also an Islamic scholar, theologian, and a Sufi mystic. A very accomplished guy. Rumi. His real name was a lot longer, but people know him as Rumi. One to remember in challenging times when everything seems to be falling apart. You feel like your heart is breaking. You want to wail rather than experience and love, peace, and joy that are your true nature. So when that's happening, you got to remember that breakdown usually precedes breakthrough on the hero's journey of transformation you're on. It's only when your existing expectations of the way life should be are challenged and you're forced out of your comfort zone that you can really transform your beliefs about who you are and what the purpose of your life really is. So often we need a crisis. In Chinese, the word crisis has two characters. The one means danger, the other means opportunity. So there's always the opportunity for a breakthrough in every crisis. So very much along the lines of your insight today. You said you had this insight.
Yeah, interesting. Yes, sure.
Just maybe because we've been recording now, so be useful for other people to hear. What was the insight that you had?
The insight was actually more the realization that it's not always, gonna be peaceful. In fact, the challenges and the tests will be there, and they're actually there to help one to be able to see or realize, what to work on. Yeah.
Exactly. So the challenges are the break, showing you what the ego is, and often often that kind of breakdown of the ego structure and your status quo precedes a breakthrough on the hero's journey. So if we look at the hero's journey again, let's look at the schematic that shows it. You've got very often that call to adventure looks like a breakdown of the known world. So your comfort zone that you've been in starts to deconstruct. Now, I'll give you an example in movies. So, did you watch The Matrix recently?
The Matrix, yes.
Yeah. So the in the first part, you see Neo in his life, and he's kind of a bit stuck in his job, but he's searching, and then his world starts to break down. Right, the agents come, They take him. He's like, why is this happening to me? I didn't ask for this. And of course, his ego's reacting, going, I want it to be calm and peaceful. But that breakdown of his normal life precedes the breakthrough into the higher awareness, into his awakening. That has to start happening. So that call to adventure, it looks like a breakdown of his existing world. So remember, it starts with he oversleeps. So now his job's under threat, and then the agents come for him, and he's like, "What's going on? I'm just my world's going upside down." Another example in a movie, if you watched the first Star Wars movie called A New Hope, it was the original Star Wars movie. Did you watch that?
No, I haven't.
No, the story is Luke Skywalker, who's the hero, who's the Jedi. He gets called by his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, to come and follow him. He's like, no, I have to stay here. He's got some adopted parents, and he's working the land with them, and he has to be there to help them. And then he comes back, and the stormtroopers have burnt the house down, and they've killed his adoptive parents. So there's nothing for him. His old world, his old life has just been destroyed, completely broken down. But that precedes that's the call to adventure, which then precedes the breakthrough into his higher awareness, his Jedi nature. So it was all part of the journey, because if that remained as it was, then he wouldn't have gone on his adventure, and he wouldn't have developed into the hero that he was destined to be. So especially when it gets really challenging and it feels like things are breaking down, that's when you're ready for a breakthrough. You've got to remember that. You're actually on the cusp of a breakthrough. You've just got to see it correctly. Don't allow the fear to get you. See that this is an opportunity to transform and to grow into a new self and let go of the old. And so it's to be welcomed, not to be feared. And so the hero, although they might feel some fear, overcomes that and says, no, the only way is forward. I've got to carry on this journey and carry on progressing down this curve into ultimately the death of the ego and the rebirth into the true self. And I've got to keep pushing into the difficulty. So whatever trials, failure, challenges, obstacles that I have, my job is to keep going and, not let that stuff sabotage me. Okay, so
Yep.
all clear on that.
And then just a question.
Yep.
Surrendering, I always like to try and highlight this. In terms of surrender, at the bottom part of the journey, is that where also one actually, learns to surrender, letting go of the ego's traits and thoughts, and then surrendering into, the present moment, or being aware of this other higher power?
Yeah. So this is all part of the surrender process. Surrender really means letting go of the ego and surrendering to this higher power, spirit, pure forms, awareness of perfect love, whatever you want to call it. And it's a process. All of this, the hero's journey, is a journey of surrendering the separate self to the higher self. And all the trials and tests and challenges are there to help you do that, because to get through these on your own as a separate self is impossible. You can't do it. You have to go deeper into a level of courage and awareness that is not possible for the ego. So the trials and the challenges are designed to awaken you to who you are. Again, look at the Matrix.
Yeah.
What happened in the Matrix? He's being tested to the limit. Really, I mean, it's an extreme test that Neo has to face. first of all, the whole awakening, it's like, well, that's hectic enough. And then he's being tested in his training. And then he has to go and save Morpheus, against impossible odds. And then he's got to fight Smith, who's, this seemingly invincible ego entity that wants to kill him. And that's, so you go through the ordeal to die to your false self. And then you remember at the end of his ordeal, so he's just being almost killed by Smith. He's on the he's got him gripped in a headlock on the tracks of the train. The train's coming. He says, "That is the sound of your death, Mr. Anderson."
Yeah.
And he says, "My name is Neo." And so in that moment, through the ordeal of, okay, I'm being pushed to the very limit. I've just been beaten up, which has hurt. This guy's about to kill me. Because I'm tested to that extent, I have to claim my true identity. And then he rises up, literally casts the guy off his back. It's like throw the ego off your back. He's learning to fly. Wow, the ceiling. So the guy wasn't expecting. And then he does a little backflip up. And it's like, okay, when you really needed it, these cities, these powers came to your rescue because you claimed your true self. You didn't give in to fear. It's like, okay, death is like 5 seconds away. And yet, okay, I'm going to claim my true self. My name is Neo. But if he hadn't been tested to that level, he wouldn't have claimed his true identity. And he wouldn't ultimately have died to the separate self and resurrected and come into the at-one-ment. And the end of the movie, that second to last scene, he comes into the at-one-ment. He sees the matrix for what it is. He sees through the illusion of it, and he's no longer scared of it. So, Smith, you remember that last fight scene, and Smith's trying to hit him, and he's just like, well, actually, I'm not really bothered. I know exactly what you're going to do. And I'm so transcendent of this that it doesn't scare me. It doesn't bother me at all, which, represents the, transcendence of the ego and its system. So 10 minutes before, he's fighting for his life, but through that experience, through the ordeal, he's grown into his true self, and he resurrects into his true self, the resurrection and the at-one-ment. And then returns, finally, the last scene of the movie, he returns with the elixir, which is the knowledge of who he really is and what the matrix is. And he brings it back to society, and he says to the matrix in that last phone call, I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you, without boundaries, without borders, without controls, i.e. without separation. And, game on. This is now I've freed my mind. I'm going to free others. So classic hero's journey, which the reason we resonate with it in movies is because we're all on that journey ourselves. Everyone has their own hero's journey to walk, this path to walk for yourself. And that's exactly what this process of spiritual awakening is. It's this hero's journey. So, if you're in the trial stage, trials and failure, that's normal. You see, it's completely, again, your insight. This is part of the process. It's normal that the hero has trials and failure. It happens repeatedly. That's why it's a pattern. So it's not unusual. And in any movie, imagine if you had a movie and there were no tests and no trials for the hero. This is boring. There's no testing and there's no growth. No one would want to watch that movie. So the hero's journey has to, test the hero often to the max. And then they have to dig deeper, and they have to become who they really are by facing and overcoming those challenges. And that's the whole point of the challenges. So that's the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of these challenges, that they're there to help you to awaken to who you really are. And that's all they're there for. They're not there to punish you. They're not there to sabotage you and hurt you and destroy your peace and happiness and ultimately kill you. They are there to awaken you to who you are. That's the correct interpretation of it. And then they have the only purpose that they really have. That's their true God-given or spiritual purpose. So they should be welcomed then. That's their purpose, and welcome them, because they're part of an essential part of the process. Without them, you're not going to awaken.
Yeah.
You have to walk the path. That's why Morpheus says to Neo, there's a difference, Neo, between knowing the path and walking the path. Yes, I can theoretically know the hero's journey. I could study it intellectually. I could do a course on it even, but until I'm walking the hero's journey, my own hero's journey, I don't really understand it, do I? It's not meant to be a theoretical exercise.
Yeah.
It's a roadmap for the hero to say, okay, I'm embarking on this journey. Let me understand what's ahead. That can be useful because then you understand, okay, this is not abnormal when I'm experiencing trials and failure. And when my ego starts deconstructing and dying and it's kicking and screaming like hell, saying, to help, I understand what's going on. It's just the death of the ego, which is part of the process. I remember going through this and my ego going, Jesus, Jono, these were exactly the words I heard in my mind. Jesus, Jono, this stuff's going to kill you. It's talking about, the spiritual practices, particularly A Course in Miracles. And then, I just kind of laughed because the Holy Spirit came in and kind of said, well, that's the whole point. Or did you think you were going to go to enlightenment with the ego intact? So I knew theoretically what it was. I'd read about this stuff. It's an illusion, and you got to die to the the separate self, and I knew all that theoretically and intellectually. But when it starts to happen to you, it's another matter. It's like, whoa, now that gets really difficult and intense. That's what it means to walk the path rather than just know the path. And when this all starts happening, then if you understand this, okay, well, that's good. I'm actually progressing. Everything's deconstructing. My ego's kicking up a right storm. Feels like, I'm dying on one level. Okay, this is, good. Means I'm going through the death and the rebirth, which is necessary to wake up, to resurrect and atone. Okay, we'll bring it on.
Yeah.
So this is just a very helpful roadmap for the journey ahead. So you understand, what it is for everyone. Everyone has this, and it's going to play out in a unique way for you. Everyone's hero's journey is unique, but will follow the same pattern.
Okay. And then if I can ask the rebirth
Sure.
and revelation,
Mm.
is that more like also, when one is stepping into the unknown?
Yeah, so you've already gone into the unknown, but at this point, the death is the death of the ego. So that separate self deconstructs. You're reborn into your true self, reborn in the spirit, and the revelation would be to experience that. The pure formless awareness of perfect love. You have an actual experience of that awareness, and then at one moment is the realization, the understanding that you are one with that source and one with all of its extensions, which is all of your brothers or companions, and in fact, all life. And you come into that at one-ment state of mind through this process, which is then, at this point, that's the enlightened state where there is no separate self remaining. and you simply live in the true self or the Christ that's able to now make a profound impact on other people. So you return to the society you left unawakened as an awakened being, and in that state you can help many people. You can become a mentor and a guide and a helper for other people on their path of awakening. Because once you've awoken, what else is there to do but to help others awaken? So you typically become a teacher of sorts, a mentor, a teacher, counselor, these kinds of things to help others to walk the path that you've walked. Because once you've walked it, then you know it experientially. You can be, truly helpful to someone else walking it, because it's not just theoretical. You've actually been there, and you can help them along the journey by, referencing to your own experience. And well, when I went, just like I just did, when I went through this, I mean, it was hectic. There was times I was like, I'm just going mad, and what's happening? My world's deconstructing. Am I going insane? It's very traumatic for the ego, but necessary if you're going to awaken to your true self, and then do what you're called to do. So this Art of Letting Go course and program has come out of this process. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been through my own hero's journey. It's like the return with the elixir, okay, the knowledge and understanding of who and what I really am. And then that's what then drives the whole program, because it's about communicating that and helping other people to find that. So, that's my own journey, and you've got yours to work out. And that's what your higher purpose is about, is walking this path, figuring it out as you go along with the help of the Holy Spirit, and ultimately making a contribution, helping others, having been through the journey yourself. So, your goal, your purpose, that will only start to manifest really when you've gone through this process yourself. Well, it's all bound up, but to really make those kinds of movies and documentaries, whatever you want to make, that demonstrate this, you would have to have gone on your own hero's journey, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Let's watch I think I did share it earlier, but if you stick with the program, I'll share it again. There was a 10-minute video clip of the guy who made Finding Joe. I've shared that movie as well earlier in the course. I don't know if you watched it. It's an 18-minute video that's free on YouTube. And he was a commercial maker. So he made, adverts, TV to make a movie about the hero's journey. And he had to go on his own, as he explains in his 10-minute talk, he had to go on his own hero's journey in order to make that movie. It was his own journey of overcoming his doubts and finding a way to do it and getting the financing and so on. And as a result of his hero's journey, then he made a movie about the hero's journey. So he had to grow into that to become that. So he had to grow personally, which is the whole point. So to become that, you want to make movies, let's say. To become that, you're going to have to go through this transformational process in order to become that and to manifest that into the world, which is the whole point of the journey. And that's the point of your purpose. It's to help you become your true self. So that's why the true self and your higher purpose are absolutely integrally linked. The true self is the guide, and it's the ultimate objective. And then the purpose is what helps you walk the path to get there, to that realization that you are just and only the true self. And then you can return in that Christ-like state into the world and have a profound impact on others, as Neo did. And in human history, look at you know, the great spiritual masters like Yeshua and the Buddha and Lao Tzu and a few others, you know, they've all walked this path, and then they've come back and they've returned to society to teach and to be teachers and healers, which is then their contribution to the awakening, their own awakening and others' awakening. So you see how this is all bound up with your true self and your higher purpose. The hero's journey is the path of
Yes.
following your purpose to awaken to your true self, which is the point of the journey. Okay, any other questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. So where were we? To help you remember to choose your higher self and the love, peace, and joy its present brings, instead of the little self the ego has made up to replace your higher self, which inevitably brings guilt, fear, anger, misery, and suffering in all its many forms. There's a recorded discussion. We talk about lesson 26. To attack thoughts, including seemingly big things in the external, like global warming and wars and pandemics, are really an attack on yourself. So the world is just a projection of that self, that little self that attacks your true self. Lady talked about suppression of her anger, the physical problems she was experiencing at the time as a result of years of suppressed anger. And there you are, Bakung. How's that? 5 years ago. Remember some of these sessions. You should actually go and watch them. Go watch them and you know, just see where you were at if you listen to yourself, and maybe how you can see you've grown. So we read, you shared a miracle experience over the previous couple of days. Section 6 of chapter 25 on the special function, which talks about the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of specialness to serve the awakening or one-man process. So that special function, another word for it is your higher purpose. And then I talked about the integral model summarized on page 21. So just go there very briefly. Actually, we've got. So I think I've covered this before, but I'll just mention it briefly. This was a model created by a guy called Ken Wilber, based on his studies of many different teachings, philosophies, spiritual traditions, religions, and so on. And he was aiming to come up with a theory of everything that would kind of encapsulate everything, which I think he's done remarkably well, actually. So he's put it into a 4-quadrant diagram. You've got individual and collective consciousness on the one axis, the y-axis, and on the x-axis, interior and exterior. And obviously where they intersect, you then have the 4 quadrants. So, you know, classic 4-quadrant diagram. And now you have these 4 elements, which ultimately are one, but in this world, they look very separate. So our job is to realize who we really are. That's only happening in our thoughts and emotions. So everything really comes back to this upper left quadrant, the individual interior. Ultimately, that helps you to transcend the whole dream. Once you've really understood who you are, you just go up in your awareness and you transcend all the limits. But then you're going to have to interact with the objective world. So from this awakened state of knowing who you are, you can then perceive the material body and all of your sense perceptions from a different perspective, a higher perspective. And so it's like contour lines at the higher level of awareness of your true self. You're going to see an expanded perspective on the world. at a lower level, you'll see, much more restricted and constricted perspective. So as you go up the levels, that's the best way of changing the external reality, because you shift up 3 or 4 levels, the reality that manifests on that same level of consciousness, it's like a contour line in physical maps, it's on the same level. That is going to be miraculous and profound. That's how you do miracles. Okay, so that's quite a useful model. You can look at it to get an understanding, a better understanding of the matrix, how it works, and how you can use these teachings to awaken from it. Makes you maybe a little bit more aware of how the structure works. All right, so any questions on that? And you can, just as an aside, you can go deeper. There's actually not just the quadrants, there's also lines of development. You see the line going up, which is like intellectual, or cognitive, or emotional, or kinesthetic. We have different talents and abilities. Some people can be emotional intelligence, but they could be very, very high on intellectual intelligence, IQ, so on. So it can be quite useful from that point of view. I understand the model, but there's also lines, there's levels. So the levels are included in here. You can see as you go up levels, lines of development, states, and types. So a state would be waking, dreaming, or deep sleep. And then you've got the types, which would refer to things like personality typing. Things that models like Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram and other personality types, typology systems would fit into that. So this integral model is really the core of it. If you understand this, you understand it. Okay, so there's a integral relation between the hero's journey or special function. You can listen to that. So have you both done exercises 8 and 9, which are in the course manual?
Yes.
Yeah, have you done those? Not yet.
8 and
So
9,
you wanna,
yes, we did.
well, we walked through this with you. So what you want to do is actually write this down. You've got it, Lynn. Well done. So write this down. So you've got that as your blueprint. You can make any notes, and then exercise 9 is finding your higher purpose. So
Yes.
write your higher purpose in there. Or you can do it on one page, I don't really mind. You can print out these 2 pages and then just read it off there, or you can just do it in one page. But make sure you do it and you write it down, because that's part of manifesting. So if you don't write it down, very easy to forget it. So writing it down, concretize it, manifests it, makes it much more real. And then you can also read it every day. Yeah, so yeah, so do those, make sure you complete it. And
It's Elaine that hasn't done the higher purpose thing, isn't it?
She hadn't done the higher purpose, so to do that with her. And then we're talking about the 3 modalities of awakened doing in this bonus video, which is worth spending a bit of time on. So Eckhart Tolle talks about acceptance as level 1 of awakened doing. So acceptance doesn't mean you accept the ego and all of its nonsense. Acceptance means that you've actually let go of your negativity, and you're in a state of relative peace. And you're accepting the truth of who you are. But it doesn't mean you're ecstatically overjoyed. So I'll give you an example. About 20 years ago now, I was driving down to at night to Durban. Because you'll resonate with this because you know South Africa. So, and I was about, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours away. It was 10 o'clock at night. My sister was waiting for me down in Durban, and I got a puncture. It's like, oh, blowout, what's happened? And I remember just the first 2 minutes was really in resistance. I was like, I can't believe it. This is so inconvenient. My car's all loaded up. I've got to get everything out the boot, get a spare wheel. Oh, yeah. And but I let it go. It was like, okay, take a deep breath, let it go, because it's not helping to go into this resistance. The only way I'm going to be able to sort this out is if I get over this resistance and I just do it. And so then I just went, okay, I accepted the situation. I let go of my negativity and I got on with it. And I just did it. It took me 20 minutes or half an hour. I fixed it. And then I was on the road again. And I was actually afterwards had a sense of satisfaction at that because, what I'd done. I was like, okay, I did actually get myself out of my negative state. And I did do it. And I up to that point, I'd never actually changed a tire on my own. I'd done it with other people, but I was never on my own. So it was a bit of a test and a lesson, and I was quite grateful for it. So that's the level of acceptance. I got myself, after 2 minutes, albeit, some resistance, but I got myself into a state of acceptance, which then allowed me to fix the problem relatively easily, actually. If I'd stayed in that resistance, it would have been harder and wouldn't have been a very pleasant experience. As it was, I was like, okay, I'm not like over the moon and like actively enjoy here, but I'm okay. I'm just doing it. And there's kind of a peaceful awareness that underlies this. So that's the base level, acceptance. He's saying in order to be conscious, awakening, you have to have at least got to acceptance. Anything else is resistance. That resistance to get to level 1, acceptance. Level 2 then builds on that, and level 2 is active enjoyment. So you actually love doing what you're doing. You enjoy the process. You are in a state of joy. That's why it's called enjoy. You enjoy when you do it, and you just love doing it. And it's really not a chore. Nothing's really a problem because, you just enjoy the process. Elaine was saying that. I said, well, you're quite disciplined. I said, well, I just enjoy it. I come on the sessions because I enjoy being. Yeah, so then it's easy to do whatever you need to do if you enjoy. Lynn, you've mentioned you can go out for hours in nature and you can take photos, and it's because you enjoy it. There's a pro, and it's not a chore, not something that, oh God, I have to go out again. It's like, no, I really want to. I enjoy the process. And so, if you can be enjoy most of the time, life flows forward very smoothly. Not difficult if you enjoy. You're not to say you might get challenged, and that happens, but if you got the base level of acceptance on which joy is built, then you can just drop down to there and go, okay, I can just accept this and be okay with this. And then sooner or later your joy is going to come back. So it's like a building, the foundation is acceptance, then onto joy, and then finally enthusiasm. So that literally means God in you, and theos means in God in Greek. It's the same as inspiration. Inspiration is just from the Latin, in spiritus, in spirit, versus enthusiasm. But they're really saying the same thing, inspired or enthusiastic. So the enthusiasm is just taking it to another level because you have the joy in what you're doing, but you have some kind of future goal without an undue emphasis on it. So you might say, well, I'm going to do something. I've got a project going on. Then you love your photography, but you might have a project to create a calendar, for instance, out of it. And you need 12, brilliant photos for the calendar, which you're then going to produce, and you're going to sell the calendar, which, by the way, could be an idea for you if I'm sure you've thought about it. The project then gives you a sense
do
of
it every year.
enthusiasm. Yeah? You do
I
it
always
every
do
year.
it. Yeah, so like I've sold 150
Yeah.
last year and the year before, but yeah,
Okay. So
I
you
only
get a
haven't.
calendar.
The only reason I haven't done more is because I've never had the money to buy it up front to buy more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, it's a good project. Yeah,
a project then gets you excited, enthusiastic. So yeah, there's a little bit of more than just, okay, now I'm enjoying it. There's like, okay, I'm going somewhere with this, but that doesn't detract from your enjoyment. You don't overload it with expectations. Like, oh, that would be cool. That would be, I mean, again, simple example would be you climbing a mountain. You love being out in nature. You love the mountain, the scenery, the walking, but now you're going to the top. So you're enjoying the process, but when you get to the top, you've been told there's just the most incredible view. And it's just the most amazing place to sit and have some lunch and maybe do a meditation, spend an hour or two, and then, come down. So now you've got that enthusiasm, that top that's just going to be the peak experience. And so that's what he means by enthusiasm. Without going out of the flow, without not enjoying it, you can carry on enjoying it. And in your joy, you are ultimately achieving the outcome, which gave you a little bit of a like, yeah, okay, I'm now going in that direction. Instead of just ambling around the mountain, I'm heading up because I know where I'm going, see? So it's kind of in our purpose. It's you enjoy the process, but there's climbing to the top of the mountain, which is ultimately awakening to who you are. That's the real top of the mountain. But along the way, there might be a project or two that inspires you, that takes you in that direction, and really, help focuses your mind, helps you to learn and to grow faster, and really get enthusiastic. So that's the 3-level model he came up with, which I find quite helpful. So at the very base level, you want to be in acceptance. If you can be in acceptance or joy most of the time, you're doing very well. And the enthusiasm is like the cherry on the top. You've got a project that really inspires you, that's in alignment with what you enjoy, then the enthusiasm can come. And if you're enthusiastic consistently, then it's a very, very powerful energy for manifesting. So the things that you're enthusiastic about and you work towards consistently in that spirit of enthusiasm, then start to manifest. So the highest frequency for manifesting is this enthusiasm or inspiration that's underpinned by joy, and that in turn is underpinned by acceptance, which is really about letting go of the negative. So can you see how letting go then is the foundation?
Yes.
Yeah. Without the letting go, you can't build that structure. Without letting go, you're not even in acceptance. So forget about joy and enthusiasm. Letting go is where the rubber meets the road. That allows you to then actually live these 3 modalities and go build your house. Again, we talk about the house. Build your house on the rock rather than the sand, the rock of truth. So the foundation of the house is letting go. Level, the ground floor is acceptance based on your ability to let go of whatever life throws at you. The second floor is joy, enjoyment, and then the top floor is enthusiasm. Interestingly, because I just went to see a place with 3 stories. kind of funny how that works synchronistically. Three levels, and at the top, the view is just really amazing. It's this lovely studio on the top floor.
So where's that? What area?
It's in Dorset, so it's just just outside a town called Shaftesbury.
Oh yeah, in Shaftesbury. Lovely.
In North Dorset.
Very nice.
So really, really, yeah, a lot of nature walks. I mean, you'd love it, Tony, because there's a lot of nature. So I'm overlooking, fields. At the moment I'm in a village. It's not unpleasant, but there's a road here that's like overlooking fields. Lovely view.
Heaven.
Takes me back 20 years when I first moved out of my parents' home. I got this place and it had this amazing view over the whole city. And it was high up. It was like stayed there for 7, 8 years. So there's something about, a height going
Yeah.
upwards gives one an expanded perspective on life, which is why often the cliche is you find the guru on the mountaintop, meditating on the mountaintop, because it's
There
solitary
is
and it's
something about it. It's
yeah,
like if I'm pet sitting in a townhouse and they've got 3 stories, quite often they've got like a window in the roof, haven't they? And I'm not there with my chin out the window, just
looking.
you can see all the rooftops, and I love it. And I love being up on a hill. There is something different about the energy up there.
I think it raises you, and it's like a higher awareness. It takes you into that state of higher awareness because you get a sense of perspective. If you're looking down physically on a whole scene, there's a sense of being above it, somehow a little bit separate. You can enjoy it, but whatever's going on down there is
down there
not that important. So I say, if everyone could go into space once in their life, it would change the world. Because that perspective of looking down on the planet from above is a life-changing experience. Wow. Okay, so all of that stuff that I've been involved in, that seems so important when I'm in it, from that higher perspective is irrelevant. And you see the beauty of it all beyond what's happening on the micro level. So no doubt it gives you an expanded view and perspective, which is why it's associated with higher awareness. And often the classic is the guru in the cave on the mountain, just having the sense of perspective above the world, not really engaging in all that lower stuff. So the analogy is height. There's 2 ways of framing it in time-space terms. There's the space terms. There's height, so you go up in awareness, and then there's also depth. You go deeper into your awareness. Those are the kind of analogies, and both are just pointers to another level of awareness, whether you talk about height or depth. So, you go to the heights and mountains, and then depths would be like, well, you're going within, you're going underground, subterranean, or you're going to the ocean, the depths of the ocean where it's all still and calm. The surface of the ocean is choppy, but you go 500 meters under and it's all calm. So these are all, pointers to the transcendent heights or depths in our own awareness. I tend to prefer the heights analogy, but the depth one can also work. Just depends on the context. Okay, so that's awakened doing, and Eckhart answers a question from a model who's kind of going, well, it's not really working for me. I'm not really. It hasn't kind of happened for me. Should I be looking for another career? What's your advice? And then he talks about this, this 3-level model, and that you should, if you are not enjoying something, you can't even get to acceptance in it. But ideally, you should be an enjoyment in your work. Then it's time to find something else. that you can enjoy. And it's not really about the money or whatever the outcome and the level of form is. It's about the joy that you experience. And that's the point of doing it. Yes, on the secondary level, it might produce income, which is necessary to live in this world. But really, it should be about the joy that it brings you and that it extends, not about the money. So yeah, we just discussed. There's any comments or questions on those modalities? If you to wrap it all up and round it into the higher purpose, if you follow your higher purpose, you should be operating at level 2 or level 3. Your higher purpose will inevitably you must enjoy that work, otherwise it's not your calling or your higher purpose. And taking it to another level, you have a vision and a project that just is the catalyst for that higher purpose to unfold. And that's going to maybe stretch you and test you, but which you can get truly enthusiastic about. This sort of higher vision that catalyzes all of it into manifestation. When people find that enthusiasm level and they can sustain that, then miracles happen. A good example on a team level would be when America first had the idea of putting someone on the moon. And there was this whole space race, who was going to get there first? Was it going to be the Soviet Union or the US? And apparently everyone galvanized in NASA. They had this mission for 5 years, however long the project lasted. Everyone knew exactly what they were trying to do. We're putting a man on the moon. That's the mission. From the cleaner to the CEO, they were all on the same page. And of course, when that project was over, then that sort of fell apart a bit because there was no longer this overriding mission. So that's an example of enthusiasm in how it came into manifestation. They did it. Okay, so let's go on to our lesson then. Okay, so this is lesson number 30 we're on to. Quite a profound one. So Lynn, if you can read that in the original and alternative, and then paragraph 1, please.
Did this yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, it was similar. Yesterday's was God or love is in everything I see. But it didn't have the corollary because God or love is in my.
Yeah, okay.
It's an extension of yesterday's, but well noted.
God is in everything I see because God is in. Love is in everything I see because love is in my mind.
Yeah, so we talked about that yesterday. Love must be in everything you see because it's in your mind, and what you're seeing with is your mind.
Yeah.
When we say see, it's actually perceive. Maybe I'll change that next time. I think I did it because I couldn't fit it in. But God, love is in everything I perceive because love is in my mind. Because I perceive with my mind. Perception is not an outside job, it's an inside job. So if love is within me in my mind, then I must be able to see from that perspective of love. Surely. It's logical, isn't it? What do you say? And just remember rememberings. When they lose, to remember that love is, love is in my mind. Still. Okay, so if you can read the first paragraph, just read it in the alternative, because not much to translate. I've just changed seen to perceived. See becomes perceived.
The idea for today is the springboard for vision. From this idea will the world open up before you, and you will look upon it and see in it what you have never seen before, nor will what you saw before be even faintly visible to you. The idea for today is the springboard for vision. From this idea, the world will open up before you, and you will perceive what you have never perceived before, nor will what you perceived before be even faintly visible to you.
Yeah, so what's he
Yeah,
saying about what?
it's well, once your perception changes, you don't see it how you used to see it. That's happened, yeah, that's happened lots of times recently, actually. Strange one today. I don't even know why I'm saying this, so apologies. But when memories come up on Facebook, and there was a picture of Sue Sims, and I almost didn't recognise her. And I sent it to her, and I said, "I don't even remember you having dark hair." She said it was a whole different me. So it was like a complete change. It was, I suppose, it must have been about, I don't know, 7 years ago or something. So I'm completely different to when I was then. And so is she. And that was just a hair colour that kind of, highlighted that, but made us think about that. But yeah, and
It's
you
been
put
a shift and a transformation.
mm,
You change your perception.
yeah.
And if you do that over time, over a period of years, 7 years is quite a long time. It can be a lot of change. You think you can't. I mean, I can't even remember back to when before I started the course. So that was 2006. Let's say 2005. It's very difficult to remember how I was, how I thought, what was my experience like at that point. But I think it's changed a lot. How you thinking, how you perceive the world, because it's just over the 20 years it's evolved. And you've
When I
grown
think
into it.
back to when I was married, it's like it's like a past
Impressive.
life.
Yeah, it's very different. So what he's saying here is that in one moment, if you really get this, I'll give you an example. Deborah had an experience about a month ago. She was walking around again in nature, so it can be a great catalyst for this. And suddenly, she just said, "I just felt and saw love everywhere. I just felt
Oh,
this
wow.
really divine love, unconditional love, loving awareness, whatever you want to call it. And I just saw hearts everywhere."
Oh,
Because in a wood, there's just heart shapes everywhere, which she wouldn't normally see. But in that state, love literally was in everything she saw, because that was her state of mind.
yeah.
But like that cloud you saw in the sky.
I
Heart,
often see
when you're
heart-shaped clouds.
in that, yeah. Well, when you're in that state of mind, then what you see is very different.
Yeah.
This is what it's saying.
Yeah.
So, our job is just to recognize that this is the truth. Love is in everything I perceive, because love is in my mind, and that never changes. Love is always in my mind. It's never not been in my mind. It cannot not be in my mind because I can't destroy love. I can cover it over, and I've done that very successfully in the past, but I no longer wish to do that. I wish to be aware of the love in my mind so that I can perceive that love is actually everywhere. And that's fundamentally a different world. You walk in a loving awareness and you see love everywhere. That is a transformed world, which is what this course is helping us to experience. Yeah, then Bakang, if you can read this little slide. These come from Elaine, courtesy of Elaine from one of her other groups, which I think are quite good, aren't they? I find them quite helpful, so that's why I've included them.
The idea for today is the springboard for vision. We are able to see God in things because we can see his purpose in them. From this idea, will the world open up before you, and you will look upon it and see in it what you have never seen before, nor will what you saw before be even faintly visible to you. What will we see in everything? God's purpose. Everything exists to help me reach him. What will we no longer see? Enemy's purpose. Everything exists to meet its needs.
So you start perceiving that, you know, everything in this world is about awakening. It's about reaching God or pure formless, of a state of pure formless awareness, of perfect love. And everything is there to facilitate that. That's very different from the ego's purpose. Enemy calls it ego, separate self, which is opposite to God and this awareness. Everything exists to meet its needs. So think of nature. I mean, a good example of this is how we perceive nature from these two perspectives. And there's got, you know, the natural world. So if you're in the first purpose, you're in nature and you're seeing the life, you're seeing the life essence, you're connecting with that, and it can be a deeply connecting spiritual experience. If you're in this ego consciousness, then nature must serve your needs. So the mountain becomes something to be mined or conquered. I want to climb the mountain to say that I've done it, or I want to mine it. The forest becomes useful for timber. The birds become a research project instead of just going and enjoying them, because everything must meet the ego's needs. And you know, that consciousness is largely responsible for the destruction of the natural environment that human beings engage in. So it's pretty fundamental. If we could all transcend and realize love is in everything I see or perceive, because love is in my mind, we would be in a very different state of awareness, and we would behave very differently towards the natural world, other people, but also, you know, the natural environment. And you then get over this idea that nature is just here to meet your needs, to meet human needs. You realize that the only need you really have is to find this loving awareness, experience this loving awareness, and that actually the purpose of nature is to connect you with that loving awareness. It's not to be used for any other purpose. And that would be pretty transformational if people could understand that. Okay, so let's go on to number 2.
Today, okay.
Karen, you can read it if you want. So today we're using a new kind of projection. just read it in the alternative, because there's really just one change. Seeing will become perceiving. Instead of seeing, it's perceiving. Yeah.
Today, we are trying to use a new kind of projection. We are not attempting to get rid of what we do not like by perceiving it outside. Instead, we are trying to perceive in the world what is in our minds, and what we want to recognize is there. Thus, we are trying to join with what we perceive rather than keeping it apart from us. That is the fundamental difference between vision and the way you perceive.
Right, so what's he saying?
It's saying that think how we view the world really matters, and it's more about perceiving from the inside rather than perceiving from the outside. So it all starts in the mind. And what's in the mind is the lens to actually look outside. So if we perceive the world correctly, we will see the world as, I can say perfect or correct, instead of the other way around.
We're trying to join with what we perceive rather than keeping it apart from us. So the ego is trying to separate us off from everyone and everything, because that's its fundamental idea, is that we're separate. So it projects out and it says there's all these people and things and places and circumstances that are outside of you and you're separate from them. This kind of perception is about joining what we perceive rather than keeping it apart from us. So we see in everything and everyone that this love that is in my mind is actually in everything. It's the same loving awareness that infuses everything, right? The very essence of that sentient being, if it's sentient, but even a non-sentient like rocks and anything that's not living, it still has that awareness at its foundation. This loving awareness, which is in my mind, is also the foundation of that rock, of that tree, of that plant, of that insect, of that bird, of that animal, and so on. And so we merge. This is one of the hallmarks of the enlightened state. We go into unity consciousness. It's called, and you experience that everything is really one with you. And you're no longer separate from what you're perceiving. You are one with it. That is what it means to perceive that love is in everything I see, because love is in my mind. That state of unity, consciousness, or awareness is the archetypal enlightened state. That people like Yeshua, the Buddha, they lived in that state most of the time, in the unity conscious state. So that's what he's pointing us to here with this idea. And there's a little diagram. So Lynn, if you can read the bits in that diagram, please.
Could you just make it a little bit bigger, please, Jono?
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the bit at the top as well.
Oh.
I can't see the first word. We are no longer attempting to get rid of what we do not like in our minds, our sinfulness, by seeing it outside. Unholy purpose. Everything exists to meet my needs. How we see now is unholy, meaning a sinful brother.
Yeah. Or a dark world, an evil world, a threatening world.
Yeah.
All of this, black spots going on in our mind
Yeah.
then gets projected out, and we see that in everything, in
Pain and
all of our
suffering.
brothers. We see it in the world because, it taints our perception. As within, so without. And this is trying to reverse this and say, we'll start cleaning this out, making that slate clean, take all the black marks and spots off, and then you will see clearly, and you will see your brother as pure and holy, innocent, because in your mind, you have this clean, clear awareness. Because perception is not outside in, perception is inside out. That's what he's trying to teach us here. Perception starts in your mind. It's the foundation of your perception is your thought system. So if we look at this diagram, which is from the Instrument for Peace worksheet, which Lynn, you've done this. But visually, this is the structure of the mind that Yeshua gave us to David Hofmeister. It's a visual illustration. And it starts with the desire or prayer in your mind. Do I want to be a separate self? Or do I want to be one self? Am I separate or am I one? That's the question. And that desire or prayer of the heart, as we call it, will lead to beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Right? If I believe I'm a separate self, then I'm going to have a set of beliefs that reinforce that. I'll believe that I'm a victim. I'll believe that I'm unfairly treated. I'll believe that the world's against me. I'll believe anything that confirms that I'm a separate self. There's a whole bunch of thoughts that go with those beliefs. Emotions inevitably go with those beliefs. So I have usually various unpleasant, toxic emotions. And then all of that influences every perception I have. So Yeshua is saying to us that perception is not primarily about the external stimuli, that things seem to trigger you and then you perceive. It's not about that. It's actually about this, what's going on here internally. That's what this lesson is teaching us. And so the level of the miracle is change your mind about who you are. Who do you want to be in this situation? Do you want to be one self or do you want to be a separate self? And your belief, thought, emotion, and perception will follow from that fundamental decision. Change your mind at that level and you change belief, thought, emotion, and perception. And that's how, in an instant, you change this, you change the world. Because your world is based on your beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. So if you start changing all of that and you change your perception, then you just changed your world being your experience of these external stimuli. So various, stimuli that comes in, but yes, you're saying that's not the cause of your perception. Cause of your perception is your fundamental belief about who you are. And you're going to interpret the world according to that. So it's a simple point, but it's a massive point.
Yeah.
We're turning the ego upside down and correcting what has been a fundamental distortion. We go back to here, look at it from a different view, the integral model. this is a shift from being identified primarily with the external world, the objective external world, and form, and the body and all of that. And now you're shifting to being primarily identified with the internal world, the world of thoughts and emotions. Saying my reality is primarily here, not here. My reality is determined by my desire to be a separate self or oneself. And then my thoughts and emotions and my state of mind and perceptions all follow. So now instead of being, puppet of the world, whatever my senses tell me, whatever my body experiences, then my inner state changes based on the world. I'm now taking control and saying, actually, it's my decision, what I think and what I feel. And then that then is what creates the external world. So this is cause and this is effect. The ego tells you that this is cause and your mind is effect. And at the extreme of the ego system, it doesn't even believe you have a mind. It thinks that you're some random collection of neurons. It's bizarre. So consciousness is a product of brain function, which is a product of neurons, chemistry in your brain firing off, and then consciousness sort of pops out of there somehow. But consciousness is not the cause. Consciousness is the effect of the body and the brain. It's a bizarre belief system, because then what created the body and the brain is the question. How did those come about then? Oh, well, they just kind of randomly, spontaneously came about through this process of evolution. Okay, so what are you saying? That just randomly, spontaneously, and there's no consciousness behind that process? The whole universe was designed without a consciousness behind it? It doesn't really stack up, does it?
So what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah. And they're saying, no, the chicken came first. But hang on, there's
Where did
there's
the
a
chicken
cause.
come from?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, where does it all originate? And what Rupert Sheldrake says, because he critiques this, and he's saying, well, modern science, they seemingly very rational and objective, but the whole thing is premised on one free miracle, that all matter and energy comes into manifestation in one explosion called the Big Bang, and then they explain it from there, but they have no idea why that happened, where that came from, why it happened. It's a mystery. They just go, well, we were not going to bother about that bit. Let's just take it from the moment of the Big Bang, and let's now explain how it all happened. But the most interesting question is why? Why did it happen? And then even beyond that, did it even happen? Why did it happen? Well, maybe it didn't even happen. Maybe the why of it happening is false. It's a false cause, a false reason. So maybe it didn't even happen. And then you have to go into the subjective thoughts and emotions, which means you become a mystic and a philosopher rather than a scientist. If you start going in here, don't you? It's no longer scientific. You can't feel it and touch it and measure it. And there's no objective scale for thoughts and emotions. They can't really be measured in the same way as the objective world. So you have to transcend the limits of that construct of science, which is what Rupert Sheldrake's arguing should be happening. Scientists should be going beyond the limitations of the objective world, and only what exists is what we can see and measure and touch.
Nothing about
Now,
science seems real anymore.
well, at the highest level of science, it points us back to the truth. It becomes a spiritual path like any other. So someone like Einstein, started to say things in the latter part of his life that were really philosophical.
Yeah.
The optical delusion of consciousness. The world is like this, optical delusion of consciousness, he said. And, it seems like we've been caught up in this prison of a separate self bound up by, our desires. But let's just bring it up. There we go. That's what I want. So read that quote. Slideshow security. That's good. Hopefully that won't take too long. There we go. Okay. So yeah, you can read that.
For me,
Yeah, can you read that, Lynn?
a human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us.
So I don't know what's going on with my screen share. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, I just can't see that quote anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, but you read it, so well done. I think it's just overloaded on memory or something. Just try stopping the share and get out of this. So that's stating the truth.
Yeah.
And that is not a scientific quote at all. It's not really nothing to do with science, has it? He became much more philosophical after the first 25 years were pretty, stellar in terms of, what he came up with in scientific terms. But then he started becoming more philosophical as he started transcending the limits of science, and he was actually seeking the grand unified theory, which was oneness. He was looking for a way of unifying, all of these kind of separate forces in the universe into one force, one theory that would describe everything, grand unified theory. And he couldn't find it, because you're never going to find unity in the construct of separation. You have to go beyond the construct of separation, which he started doing. I don't know how far he got with that and what his ultimate realization was, but he was clearly going into the same territory as philosophers and mystics towards the end of his life by saying things like that. So science can become a path to this awakening. Quantum mechanics, another example. Quantum mechanics is really saying exactly what is no reality in the absence of the observer. Just think about that for a moment. There is no reality in the absence of the observer. So the observer and what is observed are one. Without the observer, i.e. the mind that is observing, there is no reality. So reality is not outside of you. Reality is in your mind. Well, it's saying really something very similar to this. Reality is primarily within, and it's your own thoughts and emotions that then creates the so-called reality of the external. And somehow that process is the illusory mechanism that the ego uses to try and convince us that actually we are separate. It's projected the idea of separation outwards and now convinces us through the projections that it's right, i.e. it's an illusion based on a false idea. Quantum mechanics is hinting at that. And the scientists, got freaked out by it. There's a guy called Schrödinger, or was it Heisenberg? I can't remember. One of the sort of founders of it who came up with Heisenberg principle, uncertainty principle. It was Heisenberg, the uncertainty principle. And he said at the end of his life, well, I don't like this science of quantum mechanics, and I wish make him question reality. Like, what is reality? What is real? What I thought was real, quantum mechanics is saying is really not. It's very variable. It's all perceptual. There's no reality in the absence of observation. Okay, so reality is perceptual, not actual, i.e. it's an illusion. See, it's saying the same thing as the mystics have been saying for thousands of years. So at the highest level, science and mysticism converge in the truth. The scientists have trouble dealing with that because they too identified with their egos. So they can't let go of the ego, which is the perceiver that doesn't want to accept what the science is actually telling them. And then, as Rupert Sheldrake says, that's not good science. That's just dogma. You want to believe in this because you want to believe in it, because your ego wants to believe in it. It becomes another dogmatic belief. It's not science. So, in some ways, the modern religion, the general religion of the world is the scientific materialist paradigm that has arisen over the last 500 years since the Renaissance, which has come to dominate people's thinking. And if you have no other religion, then that would be your religion. And even many people who say they Christians or Muslims or whatever, they actually believe in scientific materialism. So that is, saying that's just another dogmatic belief system that is not based on truth. It's just become a dogma, and then, like all dogmas, it actually suppresses the truth. And we see that in things like them banning his TED talk. So he gives us really amazing, one of the most insightful TED talks I've listened to in London, and they banned it. TED said, no, we're not going to show this video because it's too. I mean, like, hang on, who decides that? Who's decided that what he's saying is false? They're saying no, well, it's spurious science, and okay, because he's questioning the very foundation of modern science. You say it's within the scientific establishment. He's a scientist is actually willing to question it and say, hang on, like we need to reform this. This needs to get unstuck from its dogmatic viewpoint, and set science free. He's not saying do away with it, but set it free to reveal the truth, which is what it's for. Remember, everything is for awakening. So that would include scientific inquiry. Okay, so then he says, a new kind of projection. We're trying to see in the world what is in our minds, and what we want to recognize is there. So we're trying to join with what we see rather than trying to keep it apart from us. Okay, so number 3, that's just instructions on how to apply it. So we'll do a meditation just now. So let's just read number 4. Can't remember whose turn it is, either one of you. Can you got to share my screen again, haven't I? Let's share the screen. I'm on some cut down screen version. Share, okay. And we're going into Gmail if you want. Where are we? Lots of unhandled exceptions, which isn't good. Gmail is what we want. There we go. Okay. So you can read number 4.
So, real vision is not limited to concepts such as near and far. To help you begin to get used to this idea, try to think of things beyond your present range, as well as those you can actually see as you apply today's idea.
So near and far space, concepts of space, they don't really apply in real vision because it transcends space and time. So he's saying, think of things beyond your present range, not just visually, but what's going on in your mind. Okay, then number
Must I
5.
continue? Number 5.
Let Lynn read that. She wants to. Real vision is not only unlimited
Okay.
by space and distance.
Real vision is not only unlimited by space and distance, but it does not depend on the body's eyes at all. The mind is its only source to aid in helping you to become more accustomed to this idea as well. Devote several practice periods to applying today's idea with your eyes closed, using whatever subjects come to mind and looking within rather than without. Today's idea applies equally to both.
Yeah. So again, he's emphasizing that the mind is its only source. This internal awareness, subjective self, is the source of perception, real vision, or true perception. It's another way of phrasing it. True perception is not only by space and distance, but does not depend on the body's eyes at all. Your mind is its only source.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
What you hold in your mind, your awareness, what you believe is the source of your perception. You get sensory data, as Morpheus called them, electrical signals coming in, and your senses bring those in, but then how you interpret them is your perception. How you interpret them comes from your mind. It's an inside job.
I have a bit of an unfortunate thing, whereas sometimes if I've gone into a place of, I don't know, say sadness or suffering, and I haven't realised, I then start seeing dead animals. I don't know if I've told you that before.
Yeah.
You know, I to the point where I see like dead animals by the road, or I even find injured animals, which is worse.
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But then
yeah.
But then I don't. But then I won't see any for a long time. But it's I think it's those points when sometimes it's really obvious when you're feeling awful and you're aware that you're thinking all the negative thoughts, but sometimes you're probably lost it, or I'm lost in it, and I don't realise. And I think that's when I see them, and I'm like, oh, that's how I'm feeling at the moment. I didn't realise, and then I can change it. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So to be aware of those kinds of patterns, but you see how it's internal. Hang on,
yeah,
I'm seeing animals again, and my state of mind is a low energy one. I'm thinking about egoic thoughts, so that's a thought system of death. And then it shows up in my experience.
yeah.
Okay, so it's inside out rather than outside in. The cause of the dead animals is my own mind.
Yeah.
I bring those into my experience because those are the kinds of thoughts and feelings that I'm dwelling on.
Yeah, and it's so obvious when it happens.
Oh. So it's inside out rather than outside in, which is scary on the one hand. It's pretty shocking, and the ego has a lot of resistance to this, but it's massively empowering. So, okay, well, I'm not the victim of the world I see anymore. My perception is not determined by the world. My perception is determined by my mind. So I can change my mind. Do I want to see dead animals? Do I want to linger in sadness and thoughts of sadness and suffering and death? Or can I let those go and change my mind and focus on life and love and peace and joy?
Yeah, and I do. That is the point where I think, right, now, enough of that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the worst example of this, though, is my dad. Because, I'm hearing people say, they've lost someone they love, but they passed peacefully, and it wasn't like that with my dad. So it's that weird thing of, did I create that? I'm in a bit of a weird place.
Well, on a deeper level, yes, because when we separated from our source, we created the thought system of death, which then
Yeah.
manifests in everything in form dying. So yeah, on a higher level, you did, but not consciously. It's like on a way higher level than conscious awareness. It's part of death is deeply entrenched in the ego system, based on the
Yeah.
idea of a separate self, and then guilt and
I don't
sin.
mean the death,
uh,
though. I don't mean the death part of it, because that happens to everybody. I don't mean that. I
yeah,
mean
but
the suffering. This where he died is just
no.
horrible.
Hmm.
It wasn't peaceful.
Hmm. So that's also, it's a miscreation of the ego. All suffering and all pain comes from the ego's delusion that it really is separate, that it's denied its source. And then you go, you have to believe in. Gonna show you this.
I don't want to do it again. Is the problem.
Hmm.
Don't want to create that again.
No. So what you gotta focus on doing is changing your mind at a fundamental level.
Yeah.
Suffering and death are part of the ego system. So if you look at, so it's taking a while to get there. If you look at this diagram, there you see the sort of cuts it off a bit. You can kind of see what's going on there. You've got the idea of a separate self that you believed in. You must have believed in to be here.
Yeah.
It splits off from pure formless awareness of perfect love. That believes in its identity, and it feels guilty and sinful for what it's apparently done to destroy perfect love. And that's where the idea of death arises, and all suffering, because you've destroyed that which is pure and holy and actually everything that's of any value at all. And now you have this terrible sin, idea that you've destroyed this, and your very existence is sinful. And so guilt is, yeah, you have false expectation of punishment by, some wrathful God. And then that has to be projected out in behavior as accusation, blame, and attack. So you're trying to offload your guilt onto other people to try and escape it. And so it's a whole system of thought to undo that suffering and the death. The only way of doing that is to let go of the idea of separation, which is the foundation of it all. That's the only way out of the system. So if you say, I'm done with sickness, suffering, and death, you're really saying, I want to let go of my separate self and all of its miscreations, which is this entire world and universe, and go back into pure formless awareness of perfect love. Because you're never going to fix it within the construct of separation. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Sickness and suffering and death have been around in humanity's experience forever, since the dawn of recorded history. This nothing's really changed. They've always been there, and they will continue to be there. It doesn't matter how much technology we invent. The ego system relies on these things. It needs them to survive, so they will continue. The ego doesn't actually want to get rid of them. The only technology that's going to get rid of them is this forgiveness or letting go technology, if you want to call that, which helps you to collapse the whole idea of the ego from at the source. To understand there is no separation. There is only still pure formless awareness of perfect love, and none of its, therefore, the effects of separation are real. That's the only way you're going to get out of it, out of that suffering and that death. So this can be a major awakening. You went deeply into this and into the darkness of death and suffering, and then you turn around at that lowest point. You say, enough is enough. I'm tired of this. I want out. So I must change. I must make a profound change. And that's when the turnaround happens. That's what transformation is about. That's what the miracle is about. And you start then undoing this and climbing back up the ladder of separation to ultimately undo it at the highest level, which is just that idea that you believed it, separation. But in the process, you've got to face and overcome all of this, the guilt, the sin, the fear, the attack thoughts, cherishing of individual identity, and so on. All that's got to be undone in order to undo the belief in separation. And that's another way of looking at the hero's journey. So it's a journey of undoing all of this in order to awaken to who you really are. Hero's journey is climbing back up the ladder from thinking you're just separate self and a victim of the world to the awakened self that knows that it is one with God and that none of this is real. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, so any questions on this?
No, not
No
really.
questions.
Any questions? Okay, so let's go into a meditation on this. What are we doing on time? 9:41. We're going to have time to do some text. Probably not, because it's going to be 12 for you. Lynn, how are you doing? Are you tired?
I'm really tired. Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish off with a 20-minute med. Bakang, that'll take you to 12. You probably want to go. We'll just leave the text today.
Okay.
I have sent it out, but I'll send it out again so you can read it in your own time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so yeah, let's do a med. This we still got stuff going on. No, reduce. Let's stop that. Maybe I can't stop it. Okay, never mind. So just gonna make yourself comfortable. Sitting, your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight. Cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. Just draw this energy up your spine to your heart center, putting one hand on your heart, connect with your heart space. Drawing it up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile, scan your mind. Just noticing thoughts, emotions, related body sensations going on, anything that is unpleasant, it doesn't feel good. Just notice it and use today's idea. Remind yourself that love isn't everything I see or perceive, because love is in my mind. Love isn't everything I perceive, because love is in my mind. So if I look on the situation, I can see the love in my mind, can feel this loving awareness. So breathe in this awareness into every pore, every cell, muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in this loving awareness. And just connect in with this awareness. Just feel into it. Breathe it into every pore, every cell, every muscle, your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. And try to see that what is in the world is in your mind. You want to recognize this loving awareness is really in your mind. Actually, this loving awareness is everywhere. Love isn't everything I see, because love is in my mind. It's everywhere all the time, always and forever. And so you can let go of any of this dark thought and awareness. Just drop it, let it go, blow it away. Breeze of your breath. It's the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest in this loving awareness. I look on the situation, it's disturbing your peace again. So love is in everything I see or perceive, because love is in my mind. Love is in everything I perceive, because love is in my mind. And just reflect on those thoughts. Feel into thought that love is in everything I see or perceive because love is in my mind. Sink inwards into this loving awareness. Nothing else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe in and out through your nose. Just the breath, and let the breath carry you into a state of loving awareness, your foundational state. In this loving awareness, you are whole, complete, perfect, innocent. Everything that you truly want lies in this awareness. There is really nothing outside of this awareness. And so with each breath, just sink deeper and deeper and deeper. Each breath into this loving awareness. If any thoughts crop up that seem to disturb this loving awareness, just breathe in this awareness, and breathing it into every part of your mind, every cell of your body, fused with this lovely light energy. And you remain in this loving awareness. No matter what seems to happen on the level of form, no matter what is going on, this awareness is the truth, and nothing else is true. Just sink into this awareness, going deeper and deeper with each breath. And it comes up to disturb that. Just remind yourself that love is in everything I see, because love is in my mind. And exhale, releasing your breath, any negative thoughts and emotion, like a dark cloud or black smoke. It's leaving you, it's going, gone. And just sink inwards to the depths of this loving awareness. Experience it fully for a few minutes of deep silence. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. And be the love that you are. The next couple of minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back from this deep connected state into an awareness of your body and the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind, noticing any thoughts, emotions, related body sensations going on, particularly anything feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting. And exhale, let it all go. Blow it all away. Breeze of your breath. Nothingness is. It's going, gone. Follow the stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest here. In a still, calm, quiet, peaceful place. In a few moments, anchor the state in, set the intention to stay here. Use today's idea to anchor you into this loving awareness. And it arises, and just say love is in everything I perceive because love is in my mind. And so it is. So now on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a moment to look around. Just observing the things in the room around you. Just randomly let your eyes rest on whatever they happen to rest on for a few seconds and say to yourself, love is in everything I see because love is in my mind. And realize that the idea applies to everything you see, or you could see if it were within the range of your sight. So you can think of things beyond your present range, as well as those you can actually see as you apply today's idea. Might be a person, another object, a place. Just apply it to whatever comes to mind. Love is in everything I perceive because love is in my mind. As Yeshua says, real vision is not only unlimited by space and distance, but does not depend on the body's eyes at all. Your mind is its only source. So close your eyes again. Use whatever comes to mind and say, love is in everything I see. Love is in this situation, person, event, circumstance, whatever you're thinking of, because love is in my mind. Notice that your inner awareness, this loving awareness, is the same whether your eyes are closed or whether they're open. So you're learning that actually it's all the same. There's only one awareness, which is the truth. And that is way beyond perception and the body's eyes. So great idea. Very powerful idea that can help you to live in the enlightened state of unity consciousness awareness, it's called, where you see that everything is one with you. You understand that deeply, and that's what unconditional love is really about. So that's what I wish for you for the rest of the evening and on into your day tomorrow. Thank you for joining Lynn and McCunn, and have a good evening and sleep well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, General.
Namaste.
Bye,
Just so you know, tomorrow I'm going to be running a session in the afternoon. So if you can join in the afternoon from, say, 1 o'clock UK time, Lynn, Kang, that's 3 p.m. for you. So if you can't make it, you can catch up with the recording.
Okay. All right. No,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to join, Lynn?
I hope so. I don't know if I've got to do anything in particular tomorrow. So if not, yeah, I'll be there because I like the afternoon ones. It's nice. Good time for me. If I'm not out.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. See you at
Brilliant.
1 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Namaste.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
So that's a wrap for tonight. Thank you to Lynn and McCung for joining. If you enjoyed the session, do join us for the next open session, the Masterclass, which is happening just over a week's time. Go to the AOLG, standing for theartoflettinggo.com. That URL is below, and sign up. You also get a free trial of the Art of Letting Go program if you do that, which is worth over £100. So go check it out, sign up, and I hope to catch you on the inside soon. You can also get some of the material that I shared with you, the daily quote and mind training lesson from A Course in Miracles, and a short mini meditation, which helps you to practice that, sent to you free on Telegram. So go to the Telegram group, which is sign up to the Telegram group, go to lifebold.com to do that. Finally, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you enjoyed this, and you'd like to be notified whenever I go live, which is 6 days a week, then just hit the subscribe button below, and you can subscribe and get access to all these videos free. So thank you for watching or listening, and I hope to catch you on the inside soon. Namaste, which means the loving awareness in me acknowledges and honors that same loving awareness in you. Wishing you much loving awareness and